Okay, hello everybody. My name is Lev Yakupov. You can see my name on the next screen. We have two endpoints in this conference. One will transfer my screen and the second will capture me in this meeting room. So today we're going to tell you briefly about our new product called TrueConf MCU, which is just released with a number of version 1.0. We talked about this solution before a couple of times. We showed this solution on a couple of international trade shows before, but only last month in June it was finally released. So at this very moment it is available for the general audience. You can download it. It actually has a pre-version like our major product called TrueConf server. So I will be happy to hear your questions during the webinar, and I will try to answer them in real time. So this presentation will be more about demonstration, not about slides. I have a short slide deck just to follow most important parts of this webinar. It's going to take approximately 1 hour, maybe a little bit less. So let's start. I will share my screen and I will stop to show the presentation. Just a moment. Here is my screen. I hope you can see it. So first of all, the solution called MCU is actually an MCU. Yogesh, I will be happy to put you on a tribune so everybody will be able to see you and hear you, but only after the webinar. So during the webinar, please ask your questions in chat. I have to decline the request. And I will change language. I think for our audience, it will be more easy to understand. Yeah, here we are. So TrueConf MCU is actually an MCU. And what MCU stands for? MCU is a multi-point control unit. So the whole idea of an MCU is a piece of software or hardware which allows endpoints in your conferencing rooms to connect together with more than 3 participants. Endpoints can connect point to point, but when you need to create a conference with 3 or more participants, there is no other way to do this, but only by using the MCU solution. So today we're going to present you our own MCU solution. This is a pure software solution. It is designed to be used on Linux platforms. It is actually already available. You can download it. I will show you a little bit later. But many people confuse TrueConf MCU with TrueConf server because both solutions are actually software-based video conferencing servers. So before we proceed, it is very important to understand the difference and positioning of each solution. So I will show you this short table with a short overview. So the best thing to describe TrueConf server, it is actually a collaboration platform. Picture or presentation, please. Have my picture. So the best thing to describe server is actually a solution for collaboration. TrueConf server is designed to connect PCs, Macs, mobiles, WebRTC users who connect to their conferences by following links. I mean, that means they connect by browsers. So all those scenarios are not possible for TrueConf MCU, because TrueConf MCU can only speak standard protocols like 323 and SIP and some others. But the whole idea is that TrueConf server is for collaboration, for your workplaces, for your mobiles, and for webinars, while TrueConf MCU is only for room endpoints, legacy room equipment, which speaks 323 and SIP protocols. That also means that such collaboration tools like present statuses, online, offline, telephone integration, directories of users, import and authorization using Microsoft Active Directory or some other LDAP catalogs, telephone integration, group chats, and many other collaboration tools are not available in MCU. MCU, just a pure solution just to connect room equipment. While everything else, what you think about video collaboration is for TrueConf server. And the good thing, these two products can actually work together. So those features which are absent in MCU are available in TrueConf server and vice versa. They are match each other very efficiently, but you have to understand the positioning. So MCU for room equipment and server for your employees collaboration and for meeting with external users. So for example, if you have, let's say, 12 rooms and you do not plan to connect PCs and mobiles of your employees to the video conferencing system, you're going to choose an MCU. If you already have an MCU and let's say 12 rooms, the same number of rooms, but you'd like to connect all your employees working from home, you have to choose TrueConf server. So these two solutions are different. They do not overlap. Their functions different and their positioning is different. So the benefits TrueConf MCU can offer compared to TrueConf server are quite obvious because it is an MCU. It allows very essential things which are required from MCU, like individual layouts for every room equipment, for every room endpoint. This is something TrueConf server can't offer. So you can create individual layout for every 323 and SIP room device. You can select different codecs for every room device. You can cascade multi-point conferences between 2 or more MCUs. You can control remotely 323 SIP endpoints. All those features are present in MCU, but are absent in TrueConf server. So if you need more tools to control 323 SIP equipment, if you more often conduct video conferencing from your room, from your rooms, and most of your equipment is 323 SIP based, then TrueConf MCU could be for you a very good solution, which will allow you to expand the current number of ports you have on existing MCU. So you can install TrueConf MCU alongside with your existing MCU to double or to triple the number of ports you already have. That's the idea of this solution. So let's have a look on the scan one more time. So MCU allows us to provide multi-point capabilities, multi-point conferencing capabilities to 323 and SIP endpoints. It is also compatible with a TrueConf group SIP endpoint called TrueConf group. It is also compatible with TrueConf server by means of SIP and 323 protocols. It is also fully compatible with legacy equipment you probably have in your rooms, which are manufactured by Cisco, Poly, Avaya, Lifesize, Huawei, and many other companies. We make sure that all popular endpoints available on the market are fully compatible with TrueConf MCU, and you can reach very nice 1080p Full HD 60 frames per second quality using this solution with the existing room equipment you already have. So this is the overview of our today's webinar. So we're going to cover all those points, and I hope you will have a very solid understanding of TrueConf MCU capabilities and cases where it can be applied and how it differs from TrueConf server. So let's start. I see we have some questions. So time to time I will check chat to see your questions. No questions so far. Very nice. So how many people do we have? 42. Well, it's less than we have a couple of hours before for the Russian version of this webinar, but still very nice. So thank you for joining us. The system requirements. TrueConf MCU, it is a piece of software. It is not an image of the virtual machine. It is not something fragile. It is a regular piece of software which you can install like any other application on Debian Linux. So Debian Linux uses package managers, which allows you to install different applications. So one of those applications is an MCU, TrueConf MCU. So you can install it, uninstall it, upgrade it, change dependencies. So all tasks you can do with a package manager can be applied to an MCU. MCU can be downloaded from our website. So let me show you how to do that. This is our webinar, by the way. So I'm going to open our website. We have to go to the products and select an MCU. Then we have to request a trial. Actually, it will allow you to download the free version. As I said, like TrueConf MCU has a free version, which is valid for all the time. So you don't need to buy the full version if you are okay with the limitations of the free version. I will cover limitations of the free version just a little bit later. Let's download the MCU installer. So this is quite simple. We have to fill out the short form. I will use my own details for that. Okay. So once we hit the download button, we start to download the installation package. It is a .deb file, a regular package file for Debian-based Linux distros. It weighs just 141 megabytes. That's it. Everything is inside. So I don't have Linux on my desktop, so I don't need to download it. But if you have a Debian, it could be, for example, yes, please record. For example, you can try it in Windows subsystem for Linux. If you have Debian, Windows subsystem for Linux, you can try it. I have Ubuntu, so I'm not going to show you, but just if you'd like to play with it on your Windows machine, you can do that if you have Windows 10. Okay, so that was for how to obtain the installer file. System requirements. So we are talking about an MCU. That means that for every layout MCU outputs with multi-point conference participants, it requires a logical or virtual core of the CPU. That's why the system requirements for the MCU is a much higher compared to TrueConf server, because it is a different architecture. For each participant, we have to encode and mix individual layout, and that brings a lot of requirements on the server. However, we have a lot of tools to control the process. And for example, we can render the same layout for many participants, and this way we can lower the requirements for the server machine. So to better understand the system requirements, think about this simple analogy. So for every individual layout on MCU, every individual layout, you need a logical or virtual core. This is quite simple. Doesn't matter how many participants you have in the same conference. The only important parameter is the number of individual layouts rendered for these conference participants. For example, the limit for the number of participants per conference is 150. So that's quite a lot. And we can achieve this number of participants very easily on a regular CPU, on a regular machine, let's say i7 CPU. For example, if we have up to 3 participants displayed on the layout for all left 147 participants. So this is a balance. So you have to understand the number of layouts you're going to have, the number of simultaneously visible participants in the layout, and only this information will allow you to properly select the system for the machine. So other limitations we have for MCU is the following. So the maximum number of participants per conference is 150. The maximum number of on-screen participants, I mean participants are visible in the same layout, is 100, 10 by 10. So this is a lot. This is something not available in TrueConf server, because in TrueConf server we have to deliver multiple streams for each participant, and the current limitation is 36. MCU allows us to gather together on the same screen, I mean, not in the same conference. This is different. On the same screen, using MCU, we can collect more endpoints. but because we only deliver single stream for such endpoints, not multiple streams for every endpoint. Because this is a different architecture. Some typical system requirements present on this slide. You can find them in the documentation for the MCU. By the way, let me show you how to obtain the documentation. So if you go docs, TrueConf.com, very easy, change language to English. So you can find documentation for all of our products. You can find MCU documentation here. You can download it as PDF if you'd like. So all important information is here. So feel free to browse docs at TrueConf.com for more information about system requirements and the usage of this product. Okay, so I mentioned that MCU has a free version. Indeed, the free version is free for everybody. The only requirement is that you have to renew the free license every year. The same is valid for TrueConf server. So the same, absolutely the same approach. You fill up the form, you download the installation file, you receive your activation key on email. You have to put activation key during the first start of the of the server, and you are done. You have the ready-to-use solution. So here we have the blank new, just freshly installed TrueConf MCU with a paid version of the license, not the free one, but it looks absolutely the same. This is the main menu of MCU solution. I will cover it in more details a little bit later, but the idea is that you do not need to connect with our team. You do not need to send emails or ask your system integrator to do something. You can download MCU and play with it on your own. You don't need to contact us. You will receive your key on email. That's very important, we believe, to make our solutions more accessible for system integrators and AV professionals from all over the world without any additional processes, without any requests. This is very simple. And as far as I know, this is the only MCU available on the market, which can be obtained for free and used for free. Other limitations we have for the free version, and please understand us, because we have seen in our history many cases where our free licensing model was abused. So we require that every copy of the free MCU maintain a connection over the internet to our registration server. This is an important requirement. So if you're going to switch off the internet connection on the machine where TrueConf MCU free version is installed, it will stop to work. Other limitations is quite simple. So basically it is up to 4 participants. So the free versions allows you to collect up to 4 sites on screen and up to 4 endpoints in the same conference. And the limitation for the conference is up to 45 minutes. After 45 minutes, you have to start it again. So just a short interruption of your call, and we hope it will annoy you enough. Okay, it will bother you, so you will buy the full version. Another restriction of the free version, we limit the quality. So there is no way you can achieve the resolution higher than HD with the free version. If you need more, up to 1080p 60 frames per second, please buy the full version. By the way, the price is actually the same we have for TrueConf Server Gateway. So as I remember, it is 500 USD per connection. Please also understand that TrueConf Server is licensed per connections, not the resolution. Usually, some other solutions, they offer you, let's say, 20 1080p connections, which equals to 40 720p connections. So each full HD connections allows you to render 2 HD connections. So this is not the case for TrueConf MCU. We license every active connections. So it doesn't matter, you have 20 endpoints in a call with HD resolution or full HD resolution. The price will be the same. And that's it. There is no other parameters, no other features which are licensed in TrueConf MCU. there is only one parameter, only one thing you have to buy is the number of connections. That's it. Everything else is included. This is quite simple. So let's proceed with the actual demonstration of the product. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me. As I see, we don't have any more questions so far. Okay, so roles and users. Once we have MCU installed, we will see this panel. So this is the panel for unauthorized guest users. So MCU have only support for one role, administrator. There is no other roles. So every person who are able to log in to MCU control panel will be able to control it. So be careful with login and passwords you create and share. So I will authorize myself, just a moment, on MCU. So this is the, let's say, dashboard. We see the default page, which is called monitoring, which allows us to see all ongoing conferences. Right now, we don't have any conferences, so it is empty. If we'd like to add more users to manage the solution, we can go to the administration settings, then user settings, and create another administrator. This is very easy to do. But the first thing we have to do when we installed the solution is to populate the address book with your existing room equipment. We have some demo endpoints in our network, so I will use them for demonstrations and I will use them to populate my address book. Basically, all you have to do is to go to address book and create entries for every endpoint you'd like to serve using MCU solution. This is quite simple to do. You just need to put the name. Let me add myself, for example. I can have any TrueConf server user here because TrueConf server can speak over SIP protocol with TrueConf MCU. Display name, this is something displayed in the layout. So it could be left layout name, for example. And then we need to put an identifier for the endpoint, equipment, gatekeeper, user, alias on PBX would like to add to the contact list. It could be SIP or free-to-free address. It could be both. And then MCU will try to reach this endpoint and device by SIP and then by free-to-free. Or it could be an IP camera or any other RTSP source of any stream. It could be IP camera, it could be some streaming session. It's up to you. But usually it is SIP. So because I have a second TrueConf application here, just a moment, I will change language for you. So this application is authorized on our local corporate server, and my ID is lyakupov@team.trueconf.com. So if I'd like to reach using MCU this user, it could be any room. All I have to do is put lyakupov@team.trueconf.com. That's it. And once I click save, now we have a contact in our address book, an entry for me, but our idea is to add here your room equipment. Because we have support for all settings and contact list import and export, I have prepared the list of our endpoints already, so let me import it. So I have imported from the backend the list of demo endpoints we have here for the demonstration. You can see, we see TrueConf server users, we can see room equipment from Polycom, Cisco, we have our own group solution, we have RTSP source for streaming, which can be used to create a multiple conference. To create a conference, we have to go conference section, and we don't have any conferences yet, just click on a button. We have to put a conference name, let's call it demo conference, an MCU, whatever. We can assign a number as a conference pin. The pin can be used to access a conference from MCU lobby, or you can put the PIN number into the address of a virtual room and directly join this particular conference. So I will create a PIN number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I will show you how to reach this conference from outside as well. So we have some other settings here. So most important is that we can select either we need to record this conference and either we need to stream this conference. These are additional settings which allows us to select the user, which layout will be used to record the conference and which layout can be used. It's a different layout to stream the conference. Those settings are additional, but on this page, you usually don't, not everybody use them. But more important things are the time limits. Actually, any conference without time limits is a virtual room. It can be accessed anytime by anyone. If we need to prohibit access to the conference before specific time and date and after specific time and date, we have to set this limit. But for our example, we don't need a limit. So the maximum number of connections for this particular license we have here is 16. That's why we have the maximum is 16, but it can be up to, as I said, 150 per conference. If we'd like to show labels for each participants, we have to tick this checkbox and we can edit each participant title during the call. Now we have to add participants. This is very easy to do. We just need to search for participants, or we can invite everybody. This is quite simple. I will invite just 3 endpoints for demonstration purposes. Here we can also predefine whether the microphone of those endpoints or cameras of those endpoints has to be enabled once they join the conference. So if you don't want for someone to be audible, to be heard by others, you can disable their mics before actually conference starts. But I want to hear all of them, so no need for this case to select these settings. We can also prohibit some participant to see the conference. It can be presented in the conference, it can be visible by others, but we can block the video of all other participants just for him. And here we have these settings, which prohibit the participant to see the conference itself. We can also disable auto dial. Auto dial, it is a feature inside MCU which will try to automatically reach every participant if it doesn't reply. So if invited participant or endpoint doesn't accept the invitation to join the conference, the MCU will try in 30 seconds to reach him again and again, so we can turn this off. Layouts is a third section for this particular conference, but layouts we will cover a little bit later. So here we can just pre-select the default layout for all participants. So, we can pre-select the layout for all participants. So we have many presets for layouts. So this is a huge topic. We will cover it a little bit later. And there are some other additional settings where we can select the resolution of a conference. So for example, for important conferences with nice equipment, we can select high resolution. If we run out of resources on the server, for some conferences, we can change the resolution to lower, and we can change the maximum bitrate. Please understand that MCU is like TrueConf server, automatically control the bitrate. So if quality of the connection between one of the participants degrades, the MCU automatically lowers the bitrate for that particular participant without affecting others. So bitrate management is very complicated thing. It has a lot of features inside, but you don't have to think about it. We take care about everything. So every layout MCU outputs can scale from 64 kilobits per second. Just imagine, from 64 kilobits per second up to 4 megabits per second when we talk about 1080p 60 frames per second resolution. So this is a very huge, big amount, big difference between bit rates, and everything happens automatically. You don't have to care about it. Here, we can only define the maximum bit rate the conference could reach. Okay, so let's save this. Once the conference is saved, I will check the questions. Yeah, thank you. It is actually quite easy to manage. We can start the conference, and once the conference is started, we have to go to monitoring section to control it. As I said, the monitoring is the default page on MCU, which allows you to see the all ongoing conferences. I just started the conference, and if we go to monitoring, we see the list of ongoing conferences. So I have only one conference ongoing, so the list consists only of one conference. So I will collapse the menu to have a better look on the conference controls. So first of all, we'd like to see whether all participants connected to the conference we just created. So the best thing to do is to have a look on actual display, the preview we have for some endpoints. So I go to the layout, and we see that the Cisco camera is disabled. That's why only 2 endpoints are visible in the layout. If we go to another endpoint, we can also preview its camera. We can also control the camera. Well, it has some lag because it's a browser, and this tool is generally for just overview of the situation, not for managing endpoints. For managing, we have different solutions. But here we can also check if everything is okay, just preview layouts, and just check if the layout was applied for this particular conference participant. We can also see the content if it is present on the endpoint. I mean, not the content being captured on the endpoint, but any content delivered to endpoint as well. We can see it here. We can also disable mics and camera of the endpoint. Actually, SIP and 323 protocols do not allow us to disable the camera or disable a microphone on site on the endpoint side. Actually, when we disable the camera of some participant, the MCU removes its video from the layout for other participants, and the same for microphone. When we disable microphone of one participant, MCU stops to mix the audio from that participant into the audio stream. That's how it works. And vice versa, we can, for example, okay, all invitations to the podium, we'll cover them later. It is also possible for particular endpoint to disable the video or audio it receives. So if we don't want one endpoint to hear what's going on and to see what's going on, we can do this. And everything is applied in real time. So in order to connect this conference, we can also reach it from our endpoint or software endpoint. For example, I will try to reach this endpoint using our own application. So here we have the IP address of TrueConf MCU. So all I have to do is write, this is TrueConf server notation for Polycom real presence. For other endpoints, the notation could be different. Usually you have to put just the IP address of the MCU. But because I know the actual PIN number of the conference, I can reach it by entering SIP URI this way. And now we are in a call. Just a moment, I will disable the audio. So the MCU mix the video for us. We see a short delay because all the video is processed on the MCU. And from here we can control the layout and how the conference is going, because now we finally have a look on what's going on. Because my TrueConf client is now a part of the conference. We can also add some other participants to the call. For example, RTSP source, we can invite it to the call. Just wait a little bit. Yeah, it is in a call. So we can see that the video stream is also presented here. The conference manager allows us to easily make someone bigger in the layout. So we have a very extensive layout settings, but if we need just in a single click, we need to make someone larger. All we have to do is just click on this crown. I will enlarge TrueConf group video. This is quite simple. So the MCU just enlarge this particular participant with a single click. Let's make Polycom bigger. So again, Polycom is bigger. We can see that MCU, according to the settings we specified during conference creation, sent us HD resolution 720p by 30 frames per second. This is a 30 frames per second very live video, very nice. If we disable the crown, again, we are back to the gallery view. There are some other things we can do. For example, I can rename participant. Let's rename our RTSP source to cartoon. Okay, and in the layout, its name is immediately changed. So for example, the conference room meeting is over. We have another meeting, so we need to change the title for this participant to the speaker name or some big boss name, whatever case you have. So you can do this in real time. We can also send chat messages to the conference participants. Hello, webinar viewers. And this message will be rendered into the video as well. All messages remain in the layout for 1 minute. So they could be visible up to 7 lines of messages. Just to send a short notice from administrator to the conference participant. For example, hello guys, you have 15 minutes left, and then your room is going to be occupied by other colleagues, or that kind of stuff. So this is quite useful for system administrator. Here we can also have an access to the call details information. So for audio, for video, for content, this endpoint doesn't receive any content. That's why we have only audio control, that we see the codec information, bitrate, we see the video information, the bitrate and the codec used. So this is quite useful for basic troubleshooting. We can also control the volume. Again, because SIP and free-to-free protocols, they do not allow us to remotely manage gain level on the endpoint and the level of speakers on the endpoint or TV connected to the endpoint. There is no way to do this using standard protocols. When we change those levels, they are actually applied on MCU side for all other participants. So when we make microphone level lower for that participant, it's actually become quieter for all other participants, because MCU makes its audio little bit not so loud when mix this audio into the audio stream. So all those settings are applied on MCU on the server side. Another thing we can do here is to check conference information, start a recording. All recordings are available in the settings. So we have started the recording. We see that the red button is glowing. So this red icon is glowing. So we can stop the recording. Later we can access the recording, or we can enable the recording by default when the conference starts or any participants join the call. We have settings, for example, the recording will automatically start when any visible participant presents into the layout, and recording stops automatically when no one is presented in the layout. So you can automate those things. So if we go to administration and check recordings, we will be able to see the recording we just made. We can download it or delete it from the server. Server can delete recordings automatically when they becomes older than the specified number of days. Once we return to the conference manager, we can also see here that we can deliver slides. For example, I have a slide with a scheme of the TrueConf MCU. When we start to deliver slides, TrueConf MCU supports BFCP protocol and 239 protocol. So it will deliver to endpoints the slide deck as well. So here we have a separate stream for, you see there is a separate stream for slides. I can make it larger. The recording of resolution is the same as for participants layout. It could reach up to 1080p 60 frames per second. And the content resolution is 1080p. This is the limit for content. So, okay, let's return to the gallery view here. So this feature is quite useful. It allows administrator of MCU to control the slide deck. So no need to bring your laptop to connect it over HDMI in a room. You can ask your operator to change slides, to prepare the slides in advance. All you have to do is just to sit in a room and conduct your meeting, and everything can be done remotely by system administrator using this very nice interface. Once I stop, you see this, that icon for content is active. It's glowing. That shows us that there is some content being delivered from MCU, not from one of the endpoints. The content is being delivered by MCU itself. Once I hit the stop, the content stream will be stopped. And again, we see only the video rendered in MCU. So the next important thing here is the layout settings. This is the most complicated part of the MCU because it allows, just imagine, for every spot in the layout, we can assign 6 different behaviors, 6 different rules. I will show you. So to enable manual layout control, first of all, we have to disable automatic layout control. Once I uncheck this box, we get the full control on what's going on. So we have to select how many video windows we are going to have. It is not correlated with the number of participants. For example, we can have, let's say, 2 video windows. Let's have them side by side. Let's change Cisco camera is disabled. Let's change the video to Polycom. Yeah, so, and we, for example, have at this conference 4 participants or 5 participants, but only 2 are presented. So we can, for example, create a special policy for this spot. Either it could be autofill, or we can create a rotation, the carousel. And once I apply time rotation, this spot will be changed to all participants who speak. So it shows you participants which are not presented in the layout. This allows us to save the system resources of the server. It also allows us to create very efficient scenarios. Let me change the layout to more beautiful one. Let's say we have 10 participants. I'd like to have it displayed this way, one bigger, some other smaller. Well, this is layout, very nice layout. We see it many times on the TV news every day when our leaders of our countries perform video conferencing on the TV. They usually use this layout with the important person in the middle. So here we can also, for example, predefine fixed participant to be a leader. Let's say TrueConf group endpoint will be a leader, and all other could be either autofill, so MCU decides who to place inside this particular spot. It could be content stream when someone starts to share the presentation. So it's actually better to change to this. So fixed layout on the left, content on the right, rotation, time rotation for all other spots, and apply. So we don't have any content, but we can. For example, if we go back and start the presentation. So it's actually how it works. So we can control not only layouts, we can control how layout is performing. So that's autofill. Yeah. And we can assign for each spot in layout different rules. Right? It could be autofill, it could be rotation, it could be fixed participant, and it could be, what else we have here? Active speaker. Yeah, another very nice thing is an active speaker. So I can make let's say layout for 6, with large one is active speaker. So once I enable my microphone, I will become a larger participant in this layout. So you see, the MCU made me larger because I have enabled my microphone, and we have defined that the largest spot in the layout is for active speaker. We can have any number of active speakers, and they will display it using the first in, last out basis. So this is quite efficient. You see that there are many different variations for the layouts. As I said, we support up to 100 participants per layout. So it could be almost anything you have seen on other MCUs. It's better to check this with 16, so you can see many different layouts. And another good thing, we can actually move people around with a drag and drop. Let's drag and drop someone, apply, and we have changed the layout for the conference. This is, let's prefix it with someone. Let's group. When we change, yeah, the group in the middle is larger. So we can drag and drop people around. That's how it works. Okay, let's disable the automatic, let's enable automatic layout again and apply. And we are back to the gallery view. And here we can also create custom layout for any participants would like to. For example, we can create specific layout for Cisco. We can specific layout for the active speaker. We can create specific layout for all endpoints we have in a room. So, for example, I have 2 participants from my application, just 2. Let's make it gallery view. We can create specific layout for, let's create specific layout for Polycom with all participants visible. So you see my application is just for 2 participants. If we go to the settings and preview Polycom video, we will see that it has all other participants in its own layout. So we see different layouts. So that's how it works. So I'm going to disable all layout settings. Just delete them. This is very nice interface to manage layouts, actually. I love it. Okay, so what else we have here is the statistics. So we can monitor in real time what's going on with our server using statistics tab. So we can see the usage of the CPU. So we see that CPU is approximately 30% busy. We are not running a specific server machine here. We have a regular i7 computer with 8 virtual cores, 8 logical cores here, and they're quite busy delivering all the layouts we have created. We can also see the network usage, some system information about Linux we have here, the number of threads, and etc. System information useful for our support team. We can also create a dump and capture all the signaling traffic. Not media data, but signaling data. We can create a dump, and sometimes our system engineers, our technical support team can ask you to do that to troubleshoot the issue. So this is quite simple to help us to find the reason for the problems you experience or can experience. So I think I have a question here. Yes, MCU layout settings are totally different from TrueConf server settings. TrueConf server layout settings allows us to create individual layouts for TrueConf protocol participants. So TrueConf server layout settings allows us to manage layout for TrueConf for Windows application, TrueConf for Android, etc., etc., etc. So those endpoints which are connected using TrueConf protocol, while MCU allows us to create individual layouts and manage layouts for SIP and free-to-free endpoints. This is something TrueConf server cannot do. So as I said, there is no overlap between functions of MCU and the server. MCU performs MCU-related tasks, while server is for collaboration. And they can be combined together, and we can cascade the conference happen for room equipment on MCU into the conference happen for, let's say, PC users, which is happening on a TrueConf server, and connect them together. We can do that. Another important thing is that MCU layouts allows us to pre-select different behaviors for every spot. It could be, as you have seen, this rotation, voice activity detection, automatic fields, and fixed participant. For TrueConf server, it is not possible. In TrueConf server, you have to manage all spots in the layout manually, because in TrueConf server, the layout management, centralized layout management of TrueConf server only allows you to fix layout for all or for specific TrueConf users. It's not for management, it's for more about fixing layout, because in TrueConf server, every user can manage its own layout. Well, not this conference. Let's say, for example, this is our conference. This is me. This is me. So in TrueConf architecture, you receive multiple streams for the call, and you can create any layout you'd like to have. You can drag and drop and move them around and select different types of layouts. This is something not available on SIP and free-to-free endpoints you have in your rooms. That's why you have to manage layouts on MCU. That's why MCU layout management is more sophisticated and has more features, because for TrueConf participants, this is something not actually needed, because every participant in TrueConf can do that right in our application. Okay. So let's check other questions. Yeah. I hope I answered your question. So what else do we have here? We have covered conference management. We have covered layout management. We have covered endpoints, microphone levels, speakers level management as well. I have mentioned that TrueConf MCU can capture RTSP sources, like the cartoon you have seen before inside the layout. It can also output any conference mixed on the server to YouTube, for example, because TrueConf MCU speaks natively RTMP protocol, which is used by YouTube. TrueConf MCU has built-in statistics and dashboard, which help you troubleshoot some basic issues. Well, that's almost the whole information I'd like to share with you today. So let's return to the scan. Now we have time to play around if you have any ideas what me to do, or answer your questions. So feel free to ask any questions you have. And we almost run out from 1 hour spot we have. So this is almost in time. There was people who wanted to be on the podium. So if you still want to be on the podium, I can approve your request. Actually, have a look what we have here for the room solution we use to control to this call. Let me show you. Okay. So this is called TrueConf Room. So it is actually a software room solution which is controlled by touch panel. It is installed on Lenovo Hub 500 endpoint, and with built-in touch screen. So actually, you see me and hear me from our TrueConf Room free piece of software. You can install it on any PC and use any tablet or built-in screen to control the conference, participants, etc., and layouts. Yeah, we have questions. Good. I will return the room controls to me. Okay. So, do you have any plans for interoperability with other platforms such as Teams and Zoom? Actually, I can show you if you have an invitation for Zoom meeting. Well, for example, you have an invitation for a Zoom meeting. We can invite or reach this Zoom meeting. I had a meeting before this week for Zoom. Usually Zoom invitation for SIP endpoints is something zoomcrc.com. So if you have such SIP address, you can use it in MCU as well. Let me show you. So we can add participants to the conference we have at the moment. Have to select SIP and put address, and MCU will invite this participant into the call. Let's put a crown on Zoom source. Yeah, so it is possible to reach Zoom meetings using MCU. It is also possible to reach Zoom meetings right from TrueConf applications. It's very easy to do. We have support for DTMF commands, so you can call GoToMeeting, Zoom, WebEx, BlueJeans, whatever web conferences right from your TrueConf applications if you have the SIP address. But most of those systems provide SIP address for room equipment to join the conferences, so you can use it to reach those conferences right from our application, and we can deliver your audio, video, and the content. The price model, that's a good question. So let me drop this someone else's Zoom room. I don't want to be visible for them. Okay, I've disconnected that participant. And let's drop Cisco as well. Yeah. Yes, you can. I will show you. So when you create a conference, you can put RTMP address. So this is actually all you need. You put RTMP address of your YouTube channel here, and once the first participants arrives into the meeting, TrueConf MCU starts to deliver this video stream to YouTube, and the publishing will start automatically by YouTube as well. The pricing model is quite simple. So basically, basically the pricing is as the following. So we only limit the number of active connections. So one active connection at TrueConf MCU is going to cost, the recommended price for end users is 500 USD. It is a lifetime without support, and there is no other things to license. Only one parameter is licensed, the number of active connections. Active connections could be over SIP, H323, or RTSP. When you stream the conference outside, the connection is not used. Only incoming connections are counted. Only connections from endpoints in active connections for all participants of a call and all RTSP incoming streams. For example, if you have a conference for 100 endpoints, but only 5 of them are visible, you need a license for 100 connections. So every active connection needs a license. So one license is 500 USD per life. It costs 500 USD. Okay, other questions? Yes, if you'd like to use TrueConf application to connect Zoom or Zoom Room, on site of Zoom, on Zoom sites, you need to have free-to-free SIP connectivity enabled. Yeah, this is extra on Zoom side because they have to enable for you the gateway, because native protocol for Zoom and many other solutions are not SIP and free-to-free, so they have to transcode. Actually, the same for TrueConf server as well. When we use TrueConf protocol, we also use gateway, which is licensed separately. Yes, YouTube is possible. Well, actually, any service is possible. So we can output any conference to RTMP. RTMP is a very popular protocol, so you can use RTMP to broadcast conferences. Streaming is enabled in the free version as well. But as I said, the free version is up to 4 participants only, just 4 participants. You can use for free with streaming enabled, of course. Okay, I will end this conference. And I will stop to share my screen. Okay. How can we, if you can send me a TMP link, I will show you. So basically, if you go to the publishing settings of your YouTube channel, you need to have, I don't remember, more than 100 subscribers or something. Then you can receive RTMP link from YouTube. All you need is to put this link in to the conference settings here, and then once conference start, it will be automatically published to YouTube. I'm talking about MCU. For TrueConf server, we have more extended, more settings for streaming, more controls for streaming, but for MCU, only RTMP is supported, which is actually all you need, basically. How to call the MCU from outside, from any endpoint without registration? This is a good question. So you have to make sure that MCU is visible outside of your network. So we have network settings here. So you have to set up your network equipment to allow the MCU to be addressed over SIP or free-to-free protocols from outside. It's actually quite complicated thing because very few routers support the forwarding of RTP traffic, which SIP uses, from outside network to the network to the inside. So this can be done, but it is not a feature of an MCU. It is a feature of your network equipment. So in terms of MCU, we do support NIT traversal. We do support encryption. So MCU can reach third-party endpoints located in outside network. But for outside endpoint to reach an MCU, you have to make some settings on your network equipment. It is also possible to register MCU on existing. We'll try to find where it is. It's possible to register TrueConf MCU on existing. Yeah, here we are. On existing gatekeeper. For example, if you have PBX, if you have MCU installed, you can connect TrueConf MCU to that PBX or that MCU, and after that you will be able to reach endpoints registered on that remote MCU gatekeeper by calling them not by IP addresses, but by their aliases, by names they use to register on external MCU or gatekeeper. So it is possible to connect MCU to existing infrastructure without need to provide additional network settings for the MCU to the MCU machine. How to call MCU from outside from any endpoint? If an organization runs multiple simultaneous conferences, would they simply need to be licensed for the total number of participants in all of the simultaneous calls? If so, does the MCU allows any burst function in case one of the conferences needs to bring in additional participants? Okay, I got the question. So yes, you have to buy the license for all active connections. So if you have 2 conferences with 10 participants each, you need 20 connections. So if you need to join 11 participants to the most important call, You have to manually go to the conference manager, of a less important call and manually drop someone and release the license. And only after that, the 21st participants will be able to join some of the conference. So you have to do this manually. There is no some kind of automatic priorities, so you can pre-select someone to be less priority, less valuable than others. If one participant is dropped from the call, it still be able to rejoin if he knows the PIN number. So if you drop someone and this participant knows the PIN number, he will be able to rejoin. But please understand that TrueConf MCU is just version 1.0. So we are here to collect your feedback. Please try the free version. We will be happy to provide everybody with 1 month's full version for any number of connections you'd like to have. And we are hearing for you, for your feedback, and we will definitely include your feedback into our roadmap, and the further features are based on your current ideas, on the comments you have today, and we of course will use them for the future versions. We already deployed MCU to our most important customers, and we already have a lot of valuable feedback. So we already have defined plans for the third quarter of this year. The roadmap for the fourth quarter can be changed a little bit as well. So we will be happy for any feedback. And MCU is going to be one of our products. It's already released, and we're going to support it. We're going to add more features. We have a dedicated team which only develop MCU solution. So it came here for a long time, because we see it's actually the reason why MCU was created. We see that many large manufacturers, they abandon their users, abandon the support of the MCUs. They do not provide new features and new solutions for video conferencing networks based on legacy protocols like SIP and free-to-free. So in some countries, it is not possible to receive support or to buy additional MCU ports. So that's all the cases where MCU can be a solution. So we can extend existing MCU capabilities. We can provide MCU multi-point capabilities to SIP free-to-free equipment the customer already have. We can also this is something available in the Russian market. We also built our own room solutions called TrueConf Group. It is a SIP and free-to-free based equipment. So we will continue to provide MCU and endpoints for those customers who only needs video conferencing in their rooms and who still needs SIP and free-to-free support. Do you have guidelines on the installation of the MCU in the Amazon Web Services? So we do not have such guide, but basically all you have to do is put some basic Linux commands like described in the documentation. Just make sure that your instance in Amazon Cloud is Debian based, that's it. So, but if you have any questions, feel free to contact our support team. We have live chat on our website. So just ask us a question in the live chat, we will help you. Recording will be provided for all participants. We have a recording, so don't worry. We will publish everything on YouTube, and we will notify everybody who registered about the availability of the recording file. So, okay, one more question. Yeah, thank you for the good question. So the gateway on TrueConf server, of course, can be bought, but TrueConf server, let me show you one more time, this table. So TrueConf server will not allow you to create individual layouts. So if you do not need to provide your room equipment individual layouts, you can go with TrueConf Server Gateway. It is also very powerful, so no need for MCU in your case. But if you need more than 10 SIP connections for TrueConf Server, if you have a lot of rooms, our recommendation is to install separately TrueConf MCU. It's actually the same price as TrueConf Server Gateway, and they can collaborate together. So there is no risks for you if you choose MCU, but if you need a connectivity just for 5 rooms, no need for MCU for you. If you have 15, 20, 30, 100 rooms, there's actually a need for an MCU for your customer, for you. Okay, guys, I hope this webinar was useful for you. I hope you got new information. I will stop to share my screen. So feel free to contact our managers regarding trial and the pilot of the MCU solution. Again, you can download it right now. So have a nice day and be healthy, be safe. It's a difficult time this year, but we continue to provide you the best video conferencing tools we can do. So have a nice day. Goodbye, everybody.